Welcome to another Kings of War 3rd Edition Battle Report. The Troll Wars Finale. Goblins versus Northern Alliance. 3,000 points. The scenario was push. Greetings all and thanks for watching our battle reports. This is the culmination of our Troll Wars campaign. And this is the Goblin Army list I'm using. This list is basically the same as I've been using. I just added, of course, I had to add 1,000 points to it to make it compatible with this scenario. So we have 3 sharp stick hordes, 1 with the hammer and measured force and 2 with mop-ups, a fleabag rider regiment with mop-ups, 2 troll hordes, 1 with the brew of sharpness and 1 with the blood of the old king. The sharpness ones are the mantic trolls, the blood of the old king ones are the Games Workshop trolls, 5 rabble regiments, a fleabag rider sniff regiment, and a troll bruiser with the healing brew. And that was a mandatory select. Since it's the Troll Wars, we had to have the Troll King. Alright, that was followed by a King on a Chariot, a Wingit with the Spotter, 2 Goblin Blasters, a Giant, a Goblin King with Jarris Pendant, a Flaggit with Insatiable Darkness, 2 Rock Throwers, and 2 Sharp Stick Throwers. Finally, I had a War Trombone to protect the short range of my big rock throwers, a Wizard with Lightning Bolt 3, Bane Chant, and Inspiring Talisman, and lastly, a unit I used for the first time, a Stingit with the Wings of Honey Maze. So the Troll Wars ended at the Battle of West Hills. No less than 5 hordes of trolls were deployed in this engagement, 3 hordes of snow trolls, 1 of rock trolls, and 1 unit of river trolls. 3 Troll Kings participated in this battle, urging their minions forth. It would be years before the snow trolls recovered, as the campaign greatly depleted their numbers. Never before or again will there be such a concentration of the troll race. Sean Dietrich, historian, The Troll Wars Epic. Alright, we had set terrain for this battle. This is called the Battle of the West Hills. It's just a whole bunch of hills. There's no woods, no walls, no nothing else. As the finale of our Troll Wars campaign. Okay, let's just try to do deployment just a little bit different. I'll kind of tell you about the right hand side of the table. I'd placed both units of my sharp sticks there. In front of them I'd placed 2 regiments of rabble. And of course on the hills we had one of my sharp stick throwers. The unit with the mop-ups and the measured force had 1 of my tokens. On the hill to the closest end of the table, I had my river trolls deployed. They had the blood of the old king, and then the troll bruiser was with them. On the other side of the table, Craig had placed a unit of snow fox. I'm sorry, that's not snow fox. A unit of archers with the giant behind them. And it was kind of funny because when we started deploying, he was going to deploy his giant in the middle, and I was too. Then I realized they would just be shish kebabs with all the shooting right in the middle of the table. So we both placed them on the exactly opposite of each other. Then he had a unit of clansmen. I believe they had 1 of the tokens. And then 1 of his bolt throwers is on the hill there. In the middle, he had placed another unit of clansmen, the House Carls, and a unit of ice elementals, I believe. I deployed pretty far left because, like I said, I was trying to sneak down that board edge. And in the exact middle, all I put in there was my War Trombone, 1 of my sharp stick throwers, and a big rocks thrower. The ultimate unit there in the middle was actually my unit of fleabag riders regiments with the mop-ups. I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but there's some old squig hoppers, and that's what I was using to mark mop-ups, so that way I wouldn't forget. Then I would just take them off after I had used them up. On the very end of the table, Craig had deployed 3 hordes of trolls and both troll bruisers to bolster his guys. He also had a small unit of archers down there to harass me. Opposite of them, on the very far end, I had my Goblin King. Behind him was the mage with the Inspiring Talisman. He was just taking cover from the archers. And then I had a couple of regiments, I think, of rabble. Behind the rabble was my unit of Luggets. In front of the Luggets was the horde of trolls with the Brew of Sharpness. The other thing that was helping those guys out was my ASB, which had the loot, and he was behind the trolls to bolster them up, because I figured if I could get those 3+ to hit trolls in there and then have Bane Chan on them, they could pretty much wipe out any unit in one go, or at least severely impact the game. So that was my plan. And I also had an assassin. I mean, it's a Sting It, and I deployed him right in the middle behind the level 2 hill, figuring I could charge perhaps one of the bolt throwers on turn 1. Turned out to be a flawed plan, but that was my plan with him anyway. Okay, this is a combined turn 1. Craig, I think, got the first turn and just kind of shuffled forward. I mean, he's got a solid infantry line, so there's really not much you can do differently than that. And I did the same thing. I just kind of shuffled forward, and the Wing It flew up behind a hill and hid for a turn, trying to hopefully get in the backfield. The Sting It flew up just short of the left-hand bolt thrower, and hopefully he can menace it on the following turns. There was some shooting on both sides. I think his archers did 3 wounds to my giant, which was remarkable. And out on the end, the other unit of archers also wounded the Goblin King on a chariot. I think in the middle really weren't any shooting there. Everything kept going back toward both flanks. Okay, this is the start of Craig's turn 2, and I just want to take a picture from the end of the battlefield so you kind of know what's going on. My shooting had done a couple of wounds to the closest unit of trolls. I was really concentrating fire and everything on his clansman unit with the token that was right in the middle of the table. I thought maybe if I could weaken that one, it might give me a place that I could attack through, perhaps later in the game. But basically, that clansman unit was walking right into the teeth of my shooting. So I felt pretty good about my ability to take it out in the long run. Okay, this is at the end of Craig's turn 2, and you can see my giant down here is up to 6 wounds already from those little paltry unit of archers. Shooting was amazing the whole game. Amazing. Everything was amazing about the dice that he was rolling this game, except for like one dice roll, which of course was the one that got him killed. My Wing It also had taken some wounds from something, I think maybe one of the bolt throwers, but it could be he had a guy with the boomstick, so he may have actually got him. Over on the left-hand side, I was in a little bit better shape because between my Goblin Chariot and my Sniffs, I managed to kill his archer unit, so that caused Craig to kind of bend his line back over there in response to my fast stuff that could move down the flank. So it was not looking horrible. I mean, I was kind of devastated by some things, but the worst thing that happened was he flipped his elementals around, and they got up close enough to shoot my my Sting It with their spell. And see, I thought they had shooting, and I didn't realize it was a spell. And you really don't get any cover from shooting anymore as an individual. You just get killed, and that's exactly what happened to my guy. And I'll put that in my learning experience for next time, and not do that again. All right, I just want to put this picture in. It's from the other side of the table. This is the start of my turn 2 before I've moved anything. You can see that he's moved his ice elementals on the right flank and kind of angled them to keep my chariot from just coming down and doing its nimble thing. About behind them were my Fleabag Sniffs, and they're actually kind of a decent unit in fight anymore. I mean, they're not incredibly good, but I mean they're not that bad either. So there's a big gaping hole right in the middle of the table where my assassin my Sting It used to be, and that was my bad. I'll learn next time, and I won't be able to do that. So as you can see, he moved up pretty hard on the left. I mean, pretty much across the board in a solid line to keep me from getting behind him. And that's what I say about the table being so. We were 3,000 points, and the table being so cluttered. The speed is not as big a deal as it could be. I mean, if I had more like a big flyer or something, it absolutely would be. But we were both playing fairly tame list, even though it was 3,000 points. I mean, it could have been multiple giants, multiple flying things, but we didn't play that way. And we just played to enjoy ourselves in this campaign game. So this is the end of my turn. I think it's the start of Craig's. My sniffs had moved through the chariot over there so that they could shoot without any cover. So, and I did maybe 1 or 2 wounds. It wasn't bad. I mean, my shooting through the whole game did okay. I guess the biggest success was just pounding the snot out of his clansmen that were coming right up the middle, because I had the war trombone there, a couple of spear chuckers, and of course a catapult. So I mean, I hit those guys pretty hard with shooting through the whole game, and wavered them a couple of times, so they really couldn't do anything. I think um, he had an item on him, and I can't remember what it's called. The diadem he had on, and they just never could shoot because they seemed like they were always wavered. So either that or he just forgot about it. I don't remember exactly what happened, but my giant had to charge this turn. He was already down 6 wounds, and so I was like, what the heck? I might as well get something out of him. And I rolled up there. I think I did 1 wound to his archers. It was pathetic. Dice were not my friend this game. I mean, they weren't horrible overall, but they were Craig rolled really, really well this entire game. Like I said, except for 1 roll, which was a key roll. All right, this is Craig's turn after movement, and I'll get another slide in a minute after he finishes shooting and stuff. But his ice elementals moved up, and I think put 3 wounds on my Fleabag Rider sniffs on this end over here. Moved fairly aggressive over on the left flank. I'm pretty sure my giant's going to bite it this turn from melee, but like I said, he's moving up right in my face now. So something has to break loose here in just a second, or this game is going to be over quick. I really can't do anything about it. He's going to be able to charge 2 of his trolls into one of my hordes, and I can't really do anything about it just because I'm kind of I didn't move properly and got myself kind of jacked up there. So anyway, we'll come back to it after the shooting is over. So this is the end of Craig's turn 3. Down on this end, my giant had charged in on his on turn 2 and did nothing. And then his archers and his giant countercharged and killed him. The dice roll on that was like an 11 and a 10. It was absurd. So my giant died without really doing anything. That's nice. In the middle, my big rock thrower and my sharp stick thrower were killed by, I think, by his shooting. So significant chunk of my shooting is gone now, and I believe even the other sharp stick thrower is wavered this turn from getting shot by his bolt thrower. So good turn for Craig. Eliminated a significant threat. Really got 2 threats off the table that are decent already, which is the assassin. I mean the sting it, and now my giant's gone down. So we'll have to see what happens in turn 3. All right, this is a crucial phase for the Goblins. On this end of the table, he had a unit of snow foxes, and they were in my way. I really couldn't do anything about them, so I went ahead and charged them with my trolls and one of my units of rabble down here to get rid of them. I knew what was coming. It didn't really matter. So, I mean, I already kind of figured out that I wasn't going to live through that encounter. The nice thing in the middle, though, was the housecarls had their flank open, and I don't know if Craig realized that the goblins could charge quite so far. So I got a flank charge on his housecarls when they hit the top of the hill. I also frontal charged them with 2 units of rabble. I know they're not going to hurt them, but hey, any little wounds at this point count to see if we can break them. On the far end, my spear unit went ahead and charged his archers, and then one of my rabble regiments went ahead and charged his snow foxes that were down there. And my hope was really just to kind of jam him up, because I mean the giant was looming down. But what I'd done was kept the trolls back as a reserve. And matter of fact, I don't think I moved those trolls the entire game, which is probably my bad. But they were, I mean, it was just, that was my insurance against that giant getting around the corner, because the Troll King was back there, plus all those river trolls. And I figured I could take him down pretty quick after the other units had beat on him. So like I said, that was my reserve, and his job was to get to the middle of the table, and my job was to keep him from getting there. So it's a pretty devastating movement phase. My sniffs went ahead and charged the front of his elementals down here too. Really wasn't anything else I mean, if I just stood back, they would have just shot me to death. So I went ahead and charged them with the hope of maybe putting a few wounds on them. All right, this turn I went from totally despondent to thinking maybe I could even sneak a draw out of this. Still wasn't looking good with the down in the right flank with all these trolls and those elementals down there. The key move of the game, though, was the charge of the flea bags into that unit of housecarls, and they destroyed them. I just turned to face the horde of clansmen, which I'm pretty sure were wavered from my shooting this turn, because I had brought the war trombone up and wavered them. So now I was safe from retribution. I still just turned straight toward them. One of the rabble regiments actually snagged the token and started moving to the other side of the table. Now I realize there's a lot of stuff there, but it always is encouraging when you have a token that you didn't have at the start of the game, because there were some of my units that clearly were not going to make it across the table. So to capture one of theirs and push back toward it, that was key. And so like I said, I went from totally despondent to thinking, hey, I could get a draw out of this, but there's a lot of game left to play. I mean, it's just turn 3, and like I said, I'm looking down at 3 troll hordes and an elemental regiment over here on this end. All right, this is where it kind of gets hard to describe because there's so much action. The ice elementals charged my sniffs, countercharged them. The 2 hordes of trolls double charged into my troll horde with the brew of sharpness. The other trolls countercharged back into my little rabble unit who had charged them the previous turn. I mean, I was just trying to keep him off of me, and the fact that I charged him kept him, I guess, further back over there. His giant charged into my sharp sticks, and this is the last I'm going to say about this thing. That stupid giant rolled boxcars 3 turns in a row to waver that unit, and I really was kind of hoping they would die so that my trolls could charge in and kill, and potentially kill the giant. But that didn't happen. So the rest of the game, on turn 7, finally my little horde of sharp sticks died to that giant, and of course that kept his giant from doing anything. But that was absurd. That many boxcars in a row on the same unit. I really wanted to throw something at Craig at that point, but on the other hand, it jammed him up and kept him from doing anything with the giant that could have potentially hurt me. So I guess that was good to go then. Okay, I'm going to start down here on this end. His elementals countercharged into my sniffs and remarkably did not kill them. As a matter of fact, I didn't even get wavered. One of his troll hordes charged into my goblins, and I held there, which is remarkable as well. The double charge into my unit of trolls, I believe, wavered them. Probably should have been dead, but I lived to tell about it over there. Over on the other side, every battle he fought, I think I was wavered in all 3 of them. But I had a secret weapon called the Goblin King. And the Goblin King, with his aura of fury, is going to re-energize my entire right flank to do wickedness to these horrible, horrible Northern Alliance guys. So let's see how my turn 4 goes. All right, this is the end of my movement. Because of the Goblin King, a bunch of my units that were wavered got to countercharge their counterparts over on the right-hand side of the table. Over here on the left, I'd managed to suicide my Bang It into a unit and one of the troll units and wound it fairly well. So that was a good thing. And then one of my Goblin units charged, and I believe I wavered of the 2 that had charged me before. I think I wavered the rightmost unit of trolls. So that's probably going to save my butt when he gets to charge next turn, or swing next turn, because he'll have 2 hordes on me if I don't. And by wavering one, I was safe. So that was a good thing. So this turn, my shooting, I've been dumping on that Klansman unit the whole game with everything I could. And finally on this turn, I killed it with a 24. So now my formerly bleak middle was looking really well, because all he had left to stop me was the elementals, and everything else was kind of already past me, and I had them occupied with either rabble or spearmen. So it was looking pretty good now with that horde of clansmen out in the middle, and they and you can see there's a nice objective marker just sitting there ready for me to suck it up. All right, so my magic user threw Bane Chant on my Goblin Sniffs, and they managed to kill the elementals this turn. And that was pretty nice because now I'm kind of looking at the flank and rear of those trolls. And my chariot charged into the flank of that other unit of trolls, and I believe just did a lot of damage and didn't do anything. So after the spectacular attack by the Goblin Sniffs, the Goblin Blaster and a regiment of goblins charged into the rightmost, or actually would be the exact center troll horde. Didn't do as much damage as I thought they did, but they got them up to 11 and then wavered them. So that was good. Actually, the first roll broke them, and then the re-roll got them back to wavered. So that protects my flank quite a bit from my troll horde that's over on the as far left as you're looking at it. And I'd regenerated quite a bit of the wounds back, so I was in pretty good shape to take another hit next turn. All right, over here on this side of the table, which is my right flank, Craig's left. You're looking at Craig from Craig's side. My Fleabag Riders and a Goblin regiment went ahead and charged into his elementals and did 3 wounds. I mean, they're armor 5, and I don't hit that well and have no crushing or anything. We had an incident over on the other side. Of course, those spearmen that you can barely see in front of the shot, they stay there the entire game until turn 7, so I'm not going to really comment about them. But there was a regiment right next to him, and he had snow foxes that I had wavered. And so what I did is I just backed up and didn't attack him so that he couldn't get to me. Because, matter of fact, his chaff became my chaff in that incident. So I thought that was a good move. I mean, I just don't want to get charged by that huge-ass clan of a huge unit of clansmen, so I was trying to save myself for as long as possible. As is true late in the game, it turns into a general scrum. Down here on this end of the table, his trolls who had charged in the flank countercharged my king on a chariot. One of his bruisers charged into my Fleabag Riders, who were pretty injured from their elemental fight. Another bruiser charged into the flank of one of my regiments, and so they were probably not long for this world. And so ferocious troll fighting here, and we'll have to see how it turns out. Okay, during the shooting phase, yet another one of my sharp stick throwers was removed from the table. It was already wavered, I think, from a shot the turn before. A crucial role was his regenerate. I had 11 wounds on one of his regiments. I'm sorry, one of his hordes of trolls, and he only got 1 back. So that was kind of a critical role for me, anyway. And his other shooting did 1 wound to the trolls and didn't really do anything to him. He did remember this time to use his healing and healed all the wounds back on those stupid elementals. So I had a real fight on my hand yet again. I'm glad I took this picture to explain what went on. His clansman was able to pivot through the edge of his guys and charge into my one of my regiments of rabble, and believe it or not, I held. I was wavered, but I held, so that was good. And because they're wavered, it doesn't really make a difference because the Troll King is there with Fury. And same thing, his elementals wavered my Fleabag unit, and of course that didn't mean anything to them. And next turn I'll be able to do a corkscrew charge into the flank of his elementals and probably get rid of them. The giant wavered the stupid spear goblins again with a roll of boxcars. It was the second or third in a row boxcars on that unit. I don't know. They never swung the entire game. They were wavered the entire game. He did a couple of wounds with his snow foxes to my goblin regiment right there, but I really gummed him up pretty good, and I was sizing him up for the explosion of the goblin blaster. So you can see it right next to my other unit, and I was hoping it would blow up big and do a lot of damage, and we'll have to see how it goes. Alright, this is my left flank, and weird and bad things are going to happen. First of all, his trolls countercharged and killed my Goblin King on a chariot. One of the troll bruisers killed my Fleabag Sniffs, and yet another troll bruiser killed one of my regiments of rabble with a flank charge. So all of a sudden, I've got one little lonely unit and a magic user holding off all that stuff. The next thing, his trolls right in front of my Goblin rabble there are wavered, so I don't really have to worry about them this turn. But his other troll unit charged and did, I think, 11 wounds to me or something obscene. And he rolled snake eyes. Now, this makes up for the 5 or 6 boxcars he rolled during the entire game. But it turned out to be one of the most pivotal moments in the game because he should have broke through easily right there. Now, I did have my Luggets properly kitted out, ready to mince him up if I could. But having those trolls survive and then get to regenerate and stuff the next turn on my turn was going to be key to this game. Alright, during my shooting phase I tried to drop a big rock on one of his troll bruisers and missed everything. And then decided that the war trombone should shoot at his mage and missed everything. The good thing I did roll, I rolled 5 regens on my trolls and got them back up to 9, which is not bad at all. Still not great. Over here on my, would be my left flank, his right. Since he wiped out all those units, I went ahead and charged my sharp sticks into his troll horde, and I managed to bane chant those so that they'd have a little bit more damage. And over here on my right hand side, I also bane chanted my Fleabag unit that's going into his ice elementals. So had a flank charge there also from a little corkscrew charge from my Goblin rabble into the flank of those things, and then the other guys in the front. So I was in pretty good shape. And the nice thing is none of that would happen if I didn't have that Goblin King with the Aura Fury. Oh my gosh, that thing was like MVP times a million. Alright, thank goodness I took this picture because I think it's the exact right spot. So you can see to the left here, you can see my Fleabag Riders in the front and the Rabble unit in the flank. And between the both of them, I think they did 6 or 7 wounds, but still did not break them. I didn't realize those elementals were unbreakable. They're pretty dang good. My Goblin Blaster charged into his clansmen on the hill, and only did 9 hits, even though I hit with all 3 dice. And but it did do 7 wounds, and I think I may have pucked and the other unit may have done like 1 wound to him, so it wasn't great. I did manage to kill his foxes there. Now I'm looking right square at the flank of his clansmen, and then of course the giant got my guys wavered, and they're just standing there looking at them. But kind of bad luck I didn't kill the elementals this turn, but I mean, there's more turns. So, well, the Goblin left flank had an outstanding turn. My trolls with the Brew of Sharpness, I'd thrown Bane Chant on them, and so I countercharged with them. I did 9 wounds and wavered his unit. My Goblin Rabble, his unit was on like 11 wounds, or 10 or 11 wounds, and I just really needed 1 more wound to make him have to check again. And I was lucky and rolled 2. And this time, I killed the unit, and so then they moved ahead a die 6, I think a couple of inches. My counter charge up on the hill, I can't call it counter, a charge up the hill at that unit of trolls there with my sharp sticks. I had Bane chanted them, did 6 wounds to them, plus they already had some wounds before, and wavered them. So we had an outstanding turn to help the Goblin left flank out. I don't think I was going to get any scoring over there, but at least it stopped him up. So over on the left flank here, Craig charged both Troll Bruisers into my Sharp Sticks unit because the horde in the very middle is wavered. And fortunately, you know, the base size allowed him to do that. The other trolls he has, his snow trolls in front of my trolls there, are wavered, and so really nothing's going to happen with them this turn. You can see I have 2 markers, but the only way I could get one across the middle line is if I killed all those trolls, but now there's 3 units there, so there's not going to happen. The bruisers, one of the bruisers alone will just keep me off the other side of the table. So over on my right flank, Craig countercharged the flanking unit of Rabble. He also charged his Thane into my War Trombone, which I didn't understand. He did it a couple turns before. But so that was what was happening over there as far as movement. Alright, in the shooting phase, his bolt thrower actually killed one of my other little units of Rabble that was over on my right flank. It was pretty beat up. All it took was like a fresh breath of air and they were going to go away. He also did a couple of wounds to, I think, my rock lobber, but I'm not positive. His boomstick guy, I was up on his flank there, could countercharge him or charge him the next turn in the flank, and I'll be danged if the boomstick guy didn't roll 3 hits and 3 wounds and wavered me. Well, that sucked. All right, the giant, he did just enough wounds and wavered, rolled a 19 and wavered my spearmen. They have not yet swung a single time. His clansmen charged the rabble he had been engaged with and destroyed them. So there's another unit off the table. The elementals had charged the rabble that had charged them in the flank, and they did 2 wounds to them and wavered them, of course. Okay, over on this flank, the 2 troll bruisers charged into my spearmen, and they did some wounds, but I don't think that they wavered them or anything. I'm pretty sure that I was just fine from that. His other unit in front of me is wavered. Can't really do anything about that. And pretty much that's it for this turn on this flank. Alright, there wasn't much I could do since it was turn 6 and everything's pretty much engaged. The best thing I did was countercharge the elementals and then charged the Fleabag Riders into the flank. And I do believe also I Bane Chained them on top of that. So that was a good thing. I did back up one of my sharp stick units. I guess my elite unit had my token and it had the measured force on it. But I mean, I was just trying to stay away from him. I did manage, I nailed him with a rock lobber shot and did 4 wounds, and that should bring that unit up to at least 11 or 12 wounds. So I mean, I have a shot at killing that unit if it screws around with me too much. My Goblin Spears over here on the right flank, they countercharged into the trolls and also got Bane Chanted again, so that helps a lot. The trolls that it already had a wavered unit in front of them, so then they countercharged and also Bane Chanted them with the loot in this case. So we're going to have to see what happens at turn 6. Alright, on turn 6, the Goblins on the left flank had an outstanding turn. They managed to, with the unit with the Brew of Sharpness, managed to destroy the unit of trolls that was opposite of them. The Sharp Sticks charged into the already wounded horde, and with the aid of Bane Chant, destroyed yet another troll horde. And so that's a clean sweep of all the snow trolls on the table except for the 2 bruisers. Alright, so over here on my right flank, I finally got rid of those pesky elementals. And it was key because there was a token there, and so now my Fleabag Riders had a token, and that little unit of rabble had a token. So I was in good shape right there. So I had 2 tokens across the line. He's probably going to have 1 across the line, and we'll have to see what happens. Maybe there'll be a turn 7. I hope not, because right now I've got the game won if the game ends at turn 6, because I have, like I said, 2 all the way across the line, and he has 1 probably going to be across the line if there's a turn 7. Well, since I'm talking to you, you know there was a turn 7, and that stupid giant eventually killed my poor Goblin Spear unit. And I could not believe it. I didn't get to swing at him one time. He wavered me every single time. I think that's 4 turns in a row that he wavered that unit. 3 of them I think were boxcars, and 1 of them was just a good roll. But the last roll, maybe it was 2 or 3 in a row, but then in the last roll he rolled out his rear end and killed them with the giant without taking a single wound. But he was about to, if it was been a turn 8, he was about to catch some serious scunion from all those trolls that are standing up there ready to dump on him. His clansman went ahead and charged me because if he could have killed my unit, he could have had the other token and either tied or won the game with it. So, but my little spear unit, they did really well, and I was able to hang with them, and so I did not lose the game or tie the game because of that particular melee. So over on this flank, my spear unit was able to hold off the 2 troll bruisers and not surrender up their token. See, turn 7 was a horrible thing. It could have possibly just swapped totally out to me. So in that case, I was able to hold on that flank, and so I still had a lead. And if I would have thought about it, all I had to do was use my my nimble movement on my fleaback riders, and I probably could have went and snagged the middle token as well. But I didn't do it. I totally forgot about it. And it was late at night. But in the end, I believe I won 2-1, and that's how close the game was. And this was after 7 turns and 3 hours of playing. So here's my afterthoughts of this game. And like I always do, try to analyze everything after the game is over. I owe this entire game, the success I had in this entire game, to a model. And that is the Goblin King with Jareth's Pendant. Oh my gosh. I would having, if it weren't for him, this game would have just been a one-sided slaughter. So that R ability with Fury is just, it's just key in order to, if you're playing Goblins, and you're going to get wavered a lot, and if you play Goblins, you will get wavered a lot, especially in melee. And so his ability to bolster those units and to bring them back, after being wavered, was just amazing. I just really don't know what I would have done without him. And the other reason that I did so well in the game was one dice roll, and I mean one dice roll. Craig had one of my units of trolls up to like 14 wounds and then rolled snake eyes. And not only did it let me live, obviously, but it brought me back so I could charge him. And I had the Brew of Sharpness. So, and I had a unit behind him with Bane Chant. So I was able to countercharge him the next turn and waver him. So, and over the next turn, I killed the unit and moved toward the center of the table. So those two things were just key to the victory. I have to admit, I was frustrated with this game. I just knew I was going to get slaughtered right off because everything was going wrong as far as dice. I mean, I was losing guys when I didn't think that there was any chance that they would be gone. So, like I said, my frustration early in the game was just, I mean, I needed a Xanax. I was so frustrated. But the little Goblin King came back and settled my nerves and settled the troops, and was able to carry me to victory. This is the end of our games for our Troll Wars. I think there are 10 games in the series, so if you want to get on my YouTube channel and check out the rest of them. Some of them were fought online, maybe 1, maybe 2. I'm not sure how many were fought online. But most of them are fought with miniatures face-to-face. And Craig did a great job because he's got his army in October. And the whole time we're playing, he is steadily painting it. And it looks really, really super nice right now. Looks great on the table, way better than my pathetic goblins. But then again, I've had some of these goblins since the 90s or inherited them from somebody else, so they're not really painted to standard. So anyway, like I said, Craig, great opponent. This whole thing, we have been within, I mean, if somebody wins, they win by a smidge. If they lose by a smidge. There's only really was one battle that was just an overwhelming rout. And in the next game, I told him, don't bring that army back because it was too easy to beat. And he didn't. And the next game was a fantastic game again. So anyhow, that was a weird thing when you tell your opponent, don't bring that army back because it was too easy to beat. And it was just too easy to flank. And that was the big thing with my speed. So anyhow, even that game was a good game, but it was just better once we changed the armies back to a better army for him and something he's more used to playing. And then the next game, he just dominated with his units of clansmen. So anyway, I've really enjoyed this campaign, and I really think that this is one of the better ways to play play Kings of War. I'm not. I mean, I don't mind going to tournaments to play with my friends, but it's not really my scene anymore. I mean, it was when I was younger and more fire and brimstone, testosterone, that stuff. But this kind of gaming to me is way more fun, where two reasonable people can sit down and play, hash through any rules that there are issues of. We really don't have any. I mean, even if we find out that we did something wrong, the first thing we do is we email each other and say, "Hey, I did this wrong during the game," and next time, watch out for that particular thing. So, anyway, that's what's fun playing with friends, fun learning together. It was fun because we started third edition with these two armies, and so we're pretty familiar with them now, and that's a lot of fun just learning what works. I mean, I didn't even take the Goblin King until this battle, and I can't even imagine how much better I would have done in the other battles if I would have had him. So, anyhow, great campaign. We're getting ready to go to the next one. I know Craig's playing Salamanders. I asked him to just tell me what you want me to play, because I have a whole bunch of armies. But I'm not going to play Goblins, Ratkin, or my Kingdoms of Men, because I play them all the time. And so I want to try a new challenge. I may drag out some Beringer or some sort of Brotherhood or something along those lines, just some other army to give it a try to. So anyway, thank you so much for watching our battle reports. Thank you for watching our campaign battle reports if you've watched them, and you guys have some great gaming.